Hey, hope you're well. So I've got something a little bit different for you today. I'm going to be doing a very short series on setting up a home studio from scratch because I just moved into a new place. This is my studio and it's Thursday, so I need to post a video, but I don't have a studio to do any mixing. So instead, what I'm going to do today is just talk you through room choice because that's really important. Then in the next video, we'll go through speaker positioning because this is something that a lot of people overlook. It's really important, more so important than acoustic treatment in a lot of cases. So I'll show you me testing out the room, different speaker locations, and walk you through that entire process. Then I'll do another video on acoustic treatment. But first, let's talk about room choice because I was fortunate in this new place, not in my old place, I only had one very small room, but in this new place that I've just moved into with my new wife, got married in June, and then we've been on honeymoon for the whole of July, and now we're moving into a new place, so it's been crazy couple of months. And this is it, this is the studio. So this is the room that I settled on in the end. And before I tell you why that is, I'm gonna just go and show you the other room. So let's go take a look. So this was one of the other options, and this room is a similar size. It's slightly rectangular, but also nearly square, which is very bad. So the factors when you're choosing a room are dimensions. You want to avoid square rooms. You want to ideally avoid small rooms. And then the other factors are furnishings. If it's a new place, that's not really going to be a consideration. As you can see, all of the rooms here are pretty empty. And beyond that, you can think about things like the flooring. So in here we've got carpet, whereas downstairs was wooden floor. If you're actually going to go through the effort of treating your room, then wooden floor is better because carpet will dampen high frequencies but not low frequencies, so you can get a slightly muffled sound. Whereas if you have wooden flooring and then you have treatment, that treatment is going to compensate for the fact that you get more reflections from the wooden flooring, and it's going to sound a bit brighter, a bit livelier, but also more controlled once you add that treatment. Having said that, if you're not planning to add any treatment, then carpet probably is going to help a tiny bit because it's going to give you a tiny bit of absorption. But if you're going to do it properly, then wooden flooring is best. So the issues with this room were the floor, carpet, and the dimensions are okay. It's not a square, so that's fine, but it's closer to being a square than the other room, which is a major issue. And besides that, there aren't really any other issues. Let's go and look at the other room. Now this room is much, much smaller. And it could work. This is actually a similar size to my last studio. So I know it works. And in here, I'd position myself up on that far wall. Generally, you want to have the speakers shooting down the longest length of the room. We'll talk about that in the next video. But this could work. It's wide enough that we could get the speakers in the good position where you're kind of in a triangle without being halfway. Again, we'll cover all of that, but you need to start thinking about where would you put the speakers? Does it make sense? Can you get the speakers in the right position in this room? And it would be a struggle here because in order to have an equilateral triangle between me and the speakers, I'd probably have to have the listening location about halfway through the room. So you can see there's the window and the speakers would be there. If we look up at the ceiling, the light is pretty much halfway and the listening position will probably be about there. Now you want to avoid being halfway across the room because then you're going to get a really strong build-up of resonant frequencies and standing waves in that room. So it could work. Small rooms like this do work, they're just a bit more problematic. And equally, on the other hand, when you've got a bigger room available, why would you pick the smaller room? Because in the bigger room, I could put a drum kit in there, could do more stuff, have a sofa, etc. So this was the second room, and now let's go back to the final room that I actually picked. Okay, so here we are in the main room. So it's probably the biggest of the three. It's slightly more rectangular because we've got a bay window. The floor is wooden flooring, which is good. And let's talk about this bay window because this is really interesting. So bay windows are quite good from an acoustical perspective. First of all, having big windows. So you can see here the window is bigger in general. There's more of the surface area of the room is window than the last room. And windows are actually pretty good because they're essentially like free bass traps. So sure, windows are a bit reflective. in the higher frequencies, so you can see that as being a highly reflective surface. And when you compare it to a wall, windows aren't reflective in the lower frequencies. They'll actually let them through. So it's basically a bass trap. And when we're talking about speaker location, let's say the speakers are going to be like one here and one here. So they're going to be pointing away from the window, which is generally the case when you have a home studio that has windows, you would point the speakers away from them. Well, the high frequencies are very directional. And because the speakers are pointing towards my ears away from the window, it's not going to cause much of an issue because the high frequencies are going to come to my ears, they're going to go past me to the back wall, there'll be absorption there. So by the time they've actually made it to the window by bouncing off that back wall, the side wall and all around the room, they're going to be pretty quiet anyway. The low frequencies, however, coming out of the monitor are going to be omnidirectional. They're not as directional. So the port is actually at the back as well with my monitors. A lot of monitors have that. But it's not an issue because the low frequencies that are going to be stronger in this window area are just going to go straight through the window and just go out into the world, which is great. That's what we want. We want to get rid of all the bass that builds up in the room. So that's actually really helpful, having windows behind your monitors. And then the other thing that's really cool is the bay window kind of acts as if the speakers are slightly flushed, and there are several acoustical benefits for speakers to be behind the front wall and flush mounted. So I'll go into that in more depth when we do talk about acoustics, but that was one of the key reasons why I picked this room, along with the more rectangular dimensions and the wooden floor. So there you go, that's room choice. It's easy to think it's not as important as speaker position or acoustic treatment, but it's one of those core three things. So in the next two videos, I'm going to continue this kind of vlog style. In the next one, it's going to be speaker position, and you can watch me testing different speaker positions using Room EQ Wizard with a measurement microphone to find the best speaker position in the room. And I have loads of tips and tricks for you about setting up your speakers properly. And then I'll do another video about acoustic treatment because I've got some nice floor to ceiling bass traps coming in from GRK Acoustics. I've got loads of panels that I built myself, and I'll tell you a bit more about that process. And then finally, we'll put it all together and we'll do some comparisons of before and after. So that's all to come. Hope you enjoy this slightly different format. Now, I'd love to hear from you. Leave a comment below. What room did you choose in your room? If you had a choice, which one did you choose? Why? What are the upsides of the room that you work with? What are the downsides? Let's get a conversation going about room choice and how you're overcoming some of the limitations of your room, because that's normally the case. In a home studio, you don't have that much choice. So let me know what issues you're having, how you overcame them, or if you need help overcoming some issues, I'd be happy to help. So that's all for today, and I'll see you next week.